Every author needs to have their own podcast if they want to connect with more authors, build their platforms, and ultimately sell more of their books. In this video, you're going to learn how to use a podcast to sell more of your KDP books. Let's get into it. What's up, Marc Guberti here, and on this channel, I help people who want to sell more of their books. So if you like the idea of selling more of your books, definitely hit subscribe and a notification bell so you get notified each time we come out with a new video. But podcasting is that medium that is going to keep on growing in importance each year with a lot of new developments, just from the fact that there's only 800,000 of them now to more cars really embracing podcasts and making them more accessible. Podcasts grow year after year and continue to attract a lot of people. So this is such a great time to jump in as an author, to start your own podcast and use it to get more sales for your book while building your author platform. And if you have a podcast already or you're thinking about starting one, I'd love to hear from you in the comments some of your thoughts about podcasting. Everyone who does leave a comment will be receiving my podcast promotion blueprint training course for free. So definitely make sure you drop a comment so I can give you your free course. I'd love to know if you have a podcast or if you don't have one, and just your thoughts about the whole industry. So one of the easy ways to get more sales for your book is to promote it in each of your episodes. You could do something really simple, like when you introduce yourself as the author of your book. So, hello everyone, welcome to Breakthrough Success. I'm Marc Guberti, author of Podcast Domination. Now, in that intro, I like to more focus on the fact that I'm a podcasting coach, because that is one of the objectives of the book. Build that trust, provide value, and then lead people into my coaching. So some people may just want to do the coaching right away, which has happened, and it is something people hire me for. So I like to emphasize I'm a coach, but you can also mention your book in the intro. You can mention it in conversation whenever it makes sense. You can add a mid-roll where you promote your book. So if you're not getting sponsors for your show right away, which is going to be like 99% of podcasters who just start out, instead of reaching out to sponsors, you can sponsor your own spot and talk about your book for 30 seconds, then go back into the episode. You could also talk about your book at the end to entice more listeners to buy. It's really great to mention your book at the end, because listeners who made it to the end of an episode are usually deep on that trust journey. And when you do talk about your books, you run the possibility of some of your guests also saying, oh, wow, your book sounds really good, let me buy it. And especially with books priced between like $2.99 and $3.99 for Kindle editions for the majority of self-published authors. And we're also talking about low-priced paperbacks relative to traditional published setups, because they've got different margins compared to us self-published authors. That incentivizes a guest to buy your book, to support your work, support what you're doing, and also because they may like the idea of what your book is about. So the guest can turn into someone who buys your book, but the guest can also turn into someone who leaves a review for your book. One of the things you can do during the post-conversation being that part where you stop recording, you're thanking the person for being on your show. One of the things you could say is, I have this new book and I'm looking to get more reviews. I'll send you a digital copy. In exchange, I would greatly appreciate if you leave an honest review. Now, Amazon does have different guidelines as to what is okay, what is not okay. You are allowed to give people free books, but it's not required of them to write a review. And you're not supposed to say, I'll give you this download, this free digital book, or I'll ship you a book. In exchange, give me a 5-star. That is completely against the rules. So pretty much what you do is you just say, would you be interested in a free copy? I would greatly appreciate if you leave an honest review. Honest review being, if they leave a 5-star or they leave a 1-star, it is an honest review. If your book is good and you have a great conversation on the show, the rating's going to be closer to a 5. So you do want to emphasize honest, and you also want to say something to the effect of, I would greatly appreciate if. So it's not like you're requiring someone to do it. It's not like you're saying you cannot come on the show or this episode will not be published until you leave that review, because that is something, again, against Amazon's terms of service. You may not get caught in some scenarios, but do you really want to risk it, especially when Amazon can block your reviewing privileges, take down reviews. So it's best to just play by the rules with asking people to leave reviews for your books. And there's definitely a lot more detail on what's okay, what's not okay if you want to go beyond this model for getting reviews on Amazon. But this is a model that works really well, especially if you are interviewing people for your podcast. Now, in addition to some of the guests leaving reviews for your books, another possibility that podcasting gives you that YouTube, that blogging, and most of the other ones don't really give you is that collaboration potential. While I have done collaborations on YouTube, I collaborated, for instance, with Dale Roberts. We talked about secret streams of income for your Kindle books, which we will link to that somewhere. But with the podcast, especially in an interview format, which is what I recommend people do with podcasting, collaboration happens automatically because it is an interview with someone where each of you are going to promote that episode when it comes out. And with this dynamic in the post conversation, in the relationship nurturing process, we're not just trying to build new relationships, we're trying to nurture the relationships we get. That is key for success as a self-published author. But through this nurturing, you can reach a point where the person on your show has a book, you have a book, you two say, I'm going to promote your book to my audience. In exchange, you promote my book to your audience. So you're cross-promoting each other's work, which is going to result in more readers for both of you. So you can get involved in these types of collaborations. It can be the email list exchanges, like I mentioned earlier, where you're just exchanging, you're sending emails to each other's list. You're not swapping the whole email addresses or anything like that because that would be illegal. But you have this dynamic. It could be email, it can be social media, it can be just like doing YouTube videos on each other's channels. There's a lot of different ways you can take a collaboration that will help you grow your brand and will help you get more book sales. Now, these final two tips I'm going to share with you are ones you don't hear very often, but they are so powerful for getting more sales for your self-published books. The first thing is, you need to publish more books in order to get more book sales. A lot of the people earning six figures, there was a study done, and on average, they have 30.3 books in their catalog. And that pretty much means the more books you are able to produce as a self-published author, the easier it is to hit any income goal. Think about if you want to make $1,000 per month with one book versus wanting to make $1,000 per month with 20 books. In one scenario, you have to make $1,000 each month with one book. In another scenario, you have to make on average $50 per month with 20 books. Use Amazon ads, which I talked about on this channel, to scale those book sales. And the $50 per month is very doable, and you could easily scale from there, depending on book and reviews and other factors. But when it comes to using the podcast to not just have guests on your show, not just build your platform, but you are producing so much content with a podcast. Breakthrough Success, Profitable Public Speaking, Ditch the Job, all of those combined, I have done over 600 interviews, not including all the virtual summits I've done. And the power with doing that much content is you could transcribe all of those episodes. You could transcribe your episodes using something like rev.com or using otter.ai, which is free. But with the transcriptions, you can easily look through the transcriptions, do some editing, and just like that, you have new books. So in theory, you could take every 10 or 15 or even 20 episodes, depending on how long each of them are, and turn those into books with some tweaking, with some extra commentary. All of a sudden, you have more books. And you have that 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 word draft to build on instead of starting from scratch with a blank sheet of paper looking at you from your screen. So a podcast can be an abundant stream of content that makes the book creating process so much easier. And then think about all the people who are then going to share the book, who are going to likely review the book, who are going to buy the book when you mention them in your book. If you do make the choice of mentioning the different guests in your book who are on your shows, I actually do this. I do book sponsorships where one of the things I say is, if you want to be featured in a future book, get a book sponsorship. It's something that past guests have bought. It's something that people in my audience have bought, and I put them in my future books. and that gives them more exposure, and that also gives you as the author more content to create. And the last tip with using a podcast to sell more of your KDP books is to think audiobooks. If you are not doing audiobooks already, you are missing out on so many sales, so much revenue. So if you do go through all this work to publish your very own book, take that extra step, turn it into an audiobook, hire someone on Fiverr, which is what I do, to get the files mastered, get the files ready to roll on Amazon, and then you have a snippet from that audiobook and you put it in your podcast episode as a mid-roll. And at the end of the clip, you can say, to get your audiobook, head over to this website, head over to Audible, and the link will be in the show notes. So you can use your podcast to effectively sell more of your audiobooks. This is a great strategy, especially for podcasting, because you're already attracting audio listeners who may not want to read a Kindle book or a paperback because they may like to learn through audio, and that is where an audiobook really comes into play. If you want to learn how to grow your self-publishing empire, we cover this all the time on my channel, so make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you want to talk to me to see how we can help you launch, grow, monetize your very own podcast or expand your existing one, definitely use the link below, markguberti.com/strategy, to schedule a free call with me to talk about that, see if we're a good fit. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.